My today's topic is atoms and molecules. First, have to understand how the reactants and products came. If we mix any two reactants, then we get the product. This is our product. To understand these reactants and products, how came, we have to understand the laws of chemical combination. There are two laws of chemical combination. One is law of conservation of mass, another one is law of definite proportion. Law of conservation of mass was introduced by Lavoisier and the famous chemist Joseph L. Proust. The law of conservation of mass states that during a chemical reaction, the sum of the mass of reactants and products remains unchanged. For example, I have taken a conical flask. In this flask, I have filled sodium sulfate solution, and in a ignition tube, I have taken calcium chloride solution, and I mixed both the reactants in order to get the product. We mix calcium chloride and sodium sulfate to get calcium sulfate and sodium chloride as product. Hence, this law states that during a chemical reaction, the sum of mass of reactants and products remains unchanged. In order to understand the law of definite proportion, Lavoisier, along with other scientists, noted that many compounds were composed of two or more elements. Each such compounds had the same element in the same proportion, irrespective of where the compounds came from or who prepared it. For example, in a compound such as water, the ratio of mass of hydrogen to the mass of oxygen is always 1:8. Whatever the source of water, thus if 9 gram of water is decomposed, 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 gram of oxygen are always obtained. Similarly, in ammonia, hydrogen and nitrogen are always present in the ratio 14:3. In carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen is present in the ratio 3:8, and in the same compounds. Joseph L. Proust states that the law of definite proportion in a pure chemical compounds, elements are always present in a definite proportion by mass. But the scientists were confused in order to how to understand the concept ratio and proportion in law of conservation mass. John Dalton was a famous British chemist. He provided an explanation for the law of conservation of mass and law of definite proportion, that all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atom. All the matter is made up of very tiny particle called atom. Atoms are individual particles which cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical combination. Atoms of a given element are identical in mass and chemical properties. Atoms of different elements have different masses and chemical properties. Atoms combine in the ratio of small whole numbers to form compounds. The relative number and kinds of atoms are constant in a given compound. This is the atom. It was a name first given by the Greeks. An atom is the smallest particle of the element that cannot usually exist independently and retain all its chemical properties. It has different shapes of different atoms. A molecule is the smallest particle of an element or a compound capable of independent existence under ordinary conditions. It shows all the properties of the substance. A compound is the mixture of two or more atoms or molecules. If atom and same amount of and same atom combines to form a molecule, if two molecules of different compounds, hydrogen and chlorine, then they form compounds. So this is called atoms, molecules, compounds.